All right, so in the real world link, it says Maria hid the clues to a scavenger hunt for a hiking club. So use the map to show where she hid the clues, identify the location of each clue. So the first clue is hidden near a tree. What ordered pair describes its location? So remember, from Friday, our ordered pairs look like this, X, Y. So we always do X first, then the Y coordinate. So we're at the tree here, okay? So what would be the X coordinate for the tree, Hunter? 4. Okay, so we always go left and right first, and then right here would be 4, where the tree's lined up. Now, what would be the Y coordinate, Katie? 2. Okay, that's all I wanted you to do. So now number 2, Maria hid the next clue at a location that is reflected across the y-axis from the tree. Where is it hidden? So if we're at the tree, okay, and we reflect over the y-axis, so we're trying to flip this point over here, okay, so where are we at now? Where would be the next clue if we're reflecting this over this line right here? Okay, we're taking that dot and flipping it over, just like we did on Friday. Destiny? The library. All right, let me get rid of this. All right, so then she walks 3 blocks east and 2 blocks north to the place the next clue. So we're at the library. She goes 3 blocks east. Now remember, these are going by twos. So you're not going to go as far as normal. So we got 1 would be in the middle, 2 would be all the way across, and then 3 would be right here in the middle. Okay, so that's 3 blocks east. Now we got to go 2 blocks north. Well, we got 2 blocks north. Where are we at now? The soccer field. So we're still at the soccer field, and it says the next clue is at the location that is reflected across the x-axis from where we were. So we're at the soccer field. We want to reflect over the x-axis. So we're going to take this dot and bring it down here. So where are we at now? If we're reflecting this dot right there, Katie? The playground. So Maria then hid the next clue under a rock by the lake. How many blocks east did she walk to the lake? So we were at the playground. So we started at the playground. How many blocks is she going to have to go to get to the lake? So count it out. How many blocks is she going to have to go? So remember how many each line is going by twos. So pay attention to that. So how many blocks is it going to be from the playground to the lake? Anybody have an idea? Hunter? 4. So if we look, we're right here. So what number would we be on at the playground? What would be our X value? 0. Well, it's not quite on the line. It's in between. So if we're in the middle, what would that be? 2. Nope. Because remember, each line, so if it's in between 0 and -2, what's in between 0 and -2? 1. -1. Okay, so if we're at -1, then we go 1 block to 0. Then there's 2, so there's 3 altogether. We go another 2 blocks, there's 5. And then we go 1 more to get to the middle, to the lake. So how many is that total? Yes. So that'd be 6 blocks. So sometimes you just got to pay attention to what they are labeling them as. Okay, so before they were labeled, usually they're going by ones. In this case, they're going by twos. It just depends. Okay, number 6. The final clue tells the hikers to walk 5 blocks north and 3 blocks east to find the prize. What ordered pair describes the location of the prize? So we're still at the lake. We got to go 5 blocks north. So remember, each line is 2 blocks. So if we jump this block, how many blocks did we just go going to this line? 2. So then we jump another line. How many is that total? And then we go halfway, so that gets us 5. So we're still in the middle here. And then it said we need to go 3 blocks east. So we go 1 and then another 2. So right here. Yes.
Can I use anything?
Yes, just grab one. All right, so since we're right here, what would be the x value for that? What's the x for this point right here? Hunter? 8. What would be the y value for this point right here? Where the prize is at? What's the y value? How many did we go up? What? 1. So there's your order pair, 8, 1. Okay, as soon as you have that, let's go ahead and go on to the next page. Not right now. Okay, so, not right now. Just have a seat. Okay, so we're going to be graphing ordered pairs today, right? Kind of like what we did the other day. It's still the same coordinate plane. Nothing has changed. Okay, your ordered pairs are still x, y, and you always start at 0, move along your x-axis, and then do the y. So it's like the alphabet. X always comes first. Okay, so they're going to give you a point, all right? And it's -3, 5. So you literally start at 0. Okay, so we go to -3. Do not put a dot there. That's not where we're stopping. If it was -3, 0, that's where we're stopping, yes. But since it's -3, 5, we have to go up to 5, and that's where we put our dot. Okay, literally, it's the same thing every time. Do the x, then the y. Move left and right, up and down. Okay, so this one, same thing, but this time they give you fractions. There's nothing different here. Okay, so we got -2.5, -3.5. So we start at 0, go over to -2.5, go down to -3.5. Put a dot. Okay, so let's jump over a few pages. We're going to do a couple of these to practice. What page is it? 407. All right, so here we go. Number 1. Actually, it's not. I don't want to do number 1. Number 2. Okay, point D. Okay, 2, 1. So we got to put point D on the graph. So I always start here in the middle. Okay, always start here in the middle. Right there at 0, 0. Now, our x is 2. So since it's +2, I go to the right. Okay, I stop at 2. Don't put a dot. And then when it's 1 for our y, we go up to 1. Now we put our dot. And then put D right next to it, point D. All right, let's do number 5, -4.5, 0. So -4.5, 0. So are we going to the left or the right? Brody? Left, because it's -4.5. So here's -4. Where would -4.5 be? Brody?
I guess on the line next to it.
Well, that would be -5. So where would -4.5 be? Destiny? Right in the middle. Okay, what was our y value? 0. So did we move up and down? No. So there's our point right there. So that was point F, I believe. Yep. So point F's right there. All right, let's do number 6. So number 6 is point A, -3.5, -3. Okay, so once again, we always start at 0, 0. Okay, so our x is -3.5. Do I go left or right? Katie? Left. Okay, so we go over to -3.5. Well, here's -3. -3.5 is going to be right in the middle there. We don't put a dot yet because our y value is -3. So are we going up or down? Down. So go down to -3, and that's where your point is. Right there in the middle. Point A. Okay, so that's all you have to do for these. Okay, they give you the ordered pair, and they just want you to put the point on there. You have to label the point. You just can't put a bunch of random dots on there and expect me to know what the point means. Okay, you got to label it. All right, so let's go back, and I want you guys to do A through D down at the bottom of page 405. So A, or 404, I mean. So A, B, C, D. Okay, so you're just plotting those points. Now you can go. So go ahead and start working on that. I'll give you a couple minutes. All you're doing is putting those points on the graph. Do not forget to label them. All right, so letter A, we have point P, -2, 4. Okay, who can come up and point to where that is at? Because for some reason the markers don't want to work, but I can have you point to it. So who can come up and point to where point P goes? -2, 4. Katie. Good. Okay, so we start here at 0, 0. We go over to -2, go up to 4. Okay, that's point P. Okay, point Q, 0, -4. Who can point to that one? Destiny? Good. So we're not moving anywhere left or right. We just stay on the y-axis and we go down to -4 and we go right on the line itself. So that would be point Q. Okay, so remember, it's always X, then Y. Like I've said in the past, you can always label it above it if you need to. Okay, point R, we have -1/2 and -2.5. Okay, so this one, yes, they're going by ones, but even with fractions, we can do this. Okay, so if we're at 0, -1/2 would be right here, right in between -1 and 0. Okay, then -2.5, we have to go down, and we go right in the middle of that square right there. So that'd be point R. All right, and letter D, we have point S. So point S is 4.5, 1. Okay, so we're on 0. So if it's 4.5, do we go left or right? To the right. Okay, so it's positive. So 4.5 is in between. It's right there in the middle of 4 and 5. So we just stay in the middle. We don't put a dot or anything. Now our Y value is 1. So we go up to 1, put a dot, and that's point S. Okay, guys, as long as you're close, like if you're supposed to be halfway in between and your dot's like this, it's a little bit bigger, I'm not going to mark you wrong. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. That means you're in the vicinity. You guys understand what's going on. Okay, any questions on graphing? Okay, always start with the X, then do the Y. Always, every time. All right, now we're going to talk about reflections a little bit more. Okay, so we did a little bit of reflections on Friday. Remember, all reflections are basically opposites. Okay, so what they're going to have you do, okay, they're going to give you a point. All right, you got to graph the point, then they want you to graph the reflection. So we graph 2, -4. So here's point A. Then they want you to reflect this point over the x-axis. So we're literally trying to take this point and put it up here to make it A prime. Right? So then the same thing for the y-axis. You have to graph the point, reflect it over the y-axis. So let's jump back over to page 407 again. We're going to do a few of these. There we go. Number 9. Okay. So point U, 3.5, -3, and they want you to plot that point first. So we got to put that point on the graph, point U. So we got 3.5, -3. So always start at 0. Okay, so if our x is 3.5, are we going left or right? Brody?
Right.
To the right, because it's positive. So we go to the right to 3.5. It's about right here, close to 4. And then since our y value is -3, we're going to go about right here. So when it's not exact, just guesstimate, get as close as you can. Okay, like I said, as long as you're close, I'm not going to mark you down. So that would be point U. Now, they want to reflect this over the x-axis. So from the other day, we talked about if you reflect over the x-axis, you change the y. Okay, so since we're going over the x this time, all we're doing is changing this to the opposite. So you don't even have to worry about the graph just yet because you can just work with the ordered pair like we did the other day. So U prime, okay, that reflection would be 3.5 because that stays the same. Because remember, we don't move left or right. We're just moving that up and down. Okay, we're going like this. We're trying to flip it. So since we're changing it this to the opposite, what's the opposite of -3? Destiny? 3. Okay, so I literally just go straight up and we go to 3 right here. And that would be U prime. That's how you label it. It's like a little apostrophe. Okay, so that's how reflection over the x-axis works. So all they want you to do is graph that first point, and then I would do the ordered pair for the new one before you even graph. Okay, it makes it a lot easier. So like this one, number 11, we have point R. So we got -2, 5. All right, so let's go ahead and graph that one. So -2, 5. So start at 0. Our x value is -2. So do we go left or right? To the left. Okay, so we go over -2 right here. Okay, our y value is 5. So I got to go up. And there's point R. Okay, so now they want to reflect this over the y-axis. So if we flip over or reflect over the y, which one do we change? So if we go over the y, which one are we changing? The x. Okay, so R prime, so we keep the 5 because we're not changing the y. So what's the opposite of -2? +2. So now our new one's 2, 5. So we literally, guys, you can literally just drag this over right here. R prime. Okay, that's how reflections work. All right, just start with the first point and then go from there. Just remember that rule from the other day. If you reflect over the y-axis, you change the x. If you reflect over the x-axis, you change the y, just to the opposite. So if it was 3, it becomes -3. All right, so let's go back to 405. And I want you guys to do E and F down at the bottom. Okay, so they give you a graph right off to the side, so use that. And you're following E and F's direction. So go ahead and get to work. Give you a couple minutes. Take your time. If you have questions. So let's look at these. So letter E. Okay, we got point C here. So we got -1, 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with that. So start at 0. Okay, so if our x is -1, are we going left or right? Hunter? Left. Okay, so we go left to -1, and our y value is 5, so we go up to 5. So right here. So that would be point C. So now they want you to reflect over the x-axis. So if we're flipping over or reflecting over the x, what are we changing? To the opposite. Hunter? Oh, we're reflecting over the x-axis, so which one do we change, Destiny? The y. So we leave -1 the same. Because remember, if we're reflecting over this line down here, I'm literally trying to take this down or up from up here and get it down here. It's like I want to fold them up. Okay, so we literally just drag this point down, -1. Okay, and now what's the opposite of 5? -5. So like I said, we literally drag it down. Okay, another way to look at this, okay, so since we're reflecting over the x-axis, you can literally count how many you want up, and you're going to do the same thing down below. Okay, that's another way to look at it. Okay, it just depends. All right, so that's how you do over the x-axis. So now let's do letter F for the y-axis. So we got point D, 2, 3.5. So start at 0, 0, go to 2, go up to 3.5, right here. So that'd be point D. Now they want to reflect this over the y-axis. So we're reflecting it over this line right here. So we reflect over the y-axis. Which one do we change? The 2, the x. Okay, so we keep 3.5 the same. And then 2 becomes -2. So then we literally are dragging this over here, and it goes right here. P or D prime. Okay, any questions on reflection so far? All right, so you just got to pay attention to those rules, and then you also got to pay attention to what axis you're going to reflect over. All right, so that changes the game a little bit. So on the next page, we're going to continue talking about reflections, but now we're going to use a real-world example. So Mr. Martin is using a coordinate plane to design a logo. He graphs points at 2, 4, and 2, -2. He then reflects 2, -2 across the y-axis. Then he reflects the new point across the x-axis. What figure is Mr. Martin using for his logo? So basically, they're just going to have you graph a couple points and do reflections and basically connect the dots. Okay? So that's what you have to do. So let's go over to 407. I want to do one over here. Number 12. Okay. So Amelia is drawing a map of the park. She graphs the entrance at 2, -3. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph that. Okay, so we got our entrance here. So at 2, -3. Start at 0. Okay, I go right to 2, down to -3, which is in between -2 and -4. So there's our first point. All right. She then reflects that point across the y-axis. So we got to reflect it over the y. So if we're reflecting this over the y, we're literally just bringing it over here. Okay, so if we go 2 to the right, we go 2 to the left. Or if we're reflecting over the y-axis, which one do we change in the ordered pair? The x. So y stays the same, and now it becomes -2. So that'd be the prime. Okay, so then Amelia reflects the new point across the x-axis. So now we're reflecting this one over our x-axis. So we are at this point. So if I'm reflecting over the x, which one do we change? Well, the y. Okay, so the x stays the same at -2. What's the opposite of -3? 3. So I'm literally taking this up here. Okay, connect the dots as best as you can. Try to keep them straight. Okay, what figure is that? What is it? Brody? A triangle. It says, what figure is graphed on the map? Triangle. All right? So why don't you guys try to do letter G? Okay, so read through it. Okay, take your time. I'll leave this right here. So start with the first point and go from there. Remember the rules of reflection. So letter G on page 406. Right here. Read through it. Take your time. So Miss Shaw is drawing a map of the school. Her room is at -3, 4, and the gym is at 3, 4. So we can go ahead and graph both of those. Okay, so if we're start at 0, okay, -3 would be over here for our x. We go up to 4. So there's her room. Okay, now we got to do the gym. So we go over to 3, up to 4. All right, so now it says the library is a reflection of 3, 4 across the x-axis. So this one right here. So that would be the library. So if we're reflecting over the x-axis, which one do we change? The y. So if this was 4, what's the opposite? So we literally just bring it down here. Okay, so then the point reflected across the y-axis to graph the off. So this point right here is then reflected over the y-axis. So if we're going over the y, what are we changing? The x. Well, if that's 3, we got to go to -3. Oh, right here. So connect the dots as best as you can. Okay, and what figure is being graphed on the map? A rectangle. All right. Any questions on this? Guys, graphing will never change. It's literally do the X, do the Y. The same thing over and over and over again. All right, I want you guys to work on IXLs today. So we're having X3 and X6. And those ones from the other day, if you didn't get finished up. Okay, they're all working with the same stuff. Okay, we're graphing the whole time. Okay, you got about 10 or so minutes, so you might as well go ahead and get started. Take your time. Read them, please. A lot of people are struggling with them because they're not reading it.